how to make art. Okay, so we'll just start off. There are no rules to art. I've done a couple poems that have followed structures, but for the most part they don't. I've written since I was 10 years old, basically since I learned English, which was my third language. That's not neither here nor there, but I've rarely followed rules. So I don't think there's strict rules. However, I think there's things that can incentivize art and things that can kind of block it off. So we're going to talk about how to make art. Because it's September and we've started school again, or university. I thought this would be fun. This is going to be a 16-week course every Saturday. You've got art class with me, your not so local poet, and I hope we're going to have a good experience. So the first class we don't have homework, the next couple classes we will. We had this in English class, ironically, what art is and trying to define it, and we kept going back and forth. We didn't really know, and it's such a vast topic, and it's so difficult to define because it is difficult to define whether art is good art or art is all of art. Is a bad piece of art art? I would argue so, but and then what makes good art, bad art? We'll maybe have a conversation like this at the end of the course, but let's get into it. Let's give you some tips, some tricks, some limiting beliefs that might be holding you back. But before we get started, I have a poetry book and a fiction book that are in the descriptions. Please check it out. And I have a TikTok where you get snippets of everything everywhere and tons of little chunks of advice and things that can help you with daily life, as well as my podcast on Spotify. And I have a podcast here too. The process of art is kind of like feelings. How do you feel a feeling? It depends on so much context, but let's get into it. First limiting belief you might have around making art is I'm not the artsy type. I'm not an artist. First of all, art can be so many things. Almost everything that you create from your mind is art. Raising a child is art. Loving someone is art. Feeling anything is art. Now, whether you put it into tangible actions and tangible ways to present it to the world, that is a different discussion, but art is within all of us. And I generally think everyone would benefit from writing, but that's my own personal agenda. But I'll give you this example. I've used this before, but it's honestly the most genius example I have about this. When you're a baby, you don't know how to walk. But you don't ever look at a baby that doesn't know how to walk yet and you're like, well, they're not going to be a marathon runner. No, they have to learn how to crawl, to walk, and then to run, to even know if they would be a runner. Even the most elite runners in the world had to learn how to crawl. It's the same with any other art form. You have to learn, you have to explore, you have to try. You cannot run if you cannot crawl. So my first tip is feel with all of your senses. All of your senses. Heighten your senses. Smell. My sense of smell is horrible. Every other sense I'm pretty good at. But heighten senses that you might be denying. Because feelings, yes, they're like in your brain, in your mind, in your body. But there's also like feeling, physically feeling something. All of the senses, okay? You know what the senses are. Google them if you don't. Sight, sound, touch, smell, taste. Those are the 5 senses. Sorry I didn't remember them at the time I Googled it now. The second limiting belief might be there are already so many artists, so many talented people. It's the most oversaturated market in the world. It's not, because 5 people can look at the same person and feel something completely different. And even you could be like, yeah, but that person means something different to them. 5 people can look at their boyfriend, I don't know why I said boyfriend, but like each prospective boyfriend, and feel something completely different. 5 people can look at the death of a loved one of a boyfriend completely different. So there's room for you because there's only one of you. And there's only one of you that views the world exactly that way, but there's tons of people that view the world quite similarly. We're waiting for someone who's viewing it like you. We're waiting not to just to be led, but to spark a thought, to either see completely the opposite opinion of theirs. which that's rarely a thing people seek out, but it is an interesting exploration, as well as just to open their mind. People like their home country, but they still travel. It's the same with art. You need to do something 1,000 times before you know if you're talented or not. And if you're like 1,000 times, that's too much, I never want to do anything 1,000 times, then you don't love it. The idea of everything I do, doing it 1,000 times, I love the idea of it. I love the idea of getting better at it. I love the process of it. Filming 1,000 videos, obviously not in one day. That would be horrible videos. But of creating, of helping, of seeing people's lives change, people reading my books. I love the idea of doing 1,000 anything, 1,000 hours of something, 1,000 tries of something. And if you don't love it to that extent, then it's maybe not the art form for you. You might love art, but you might be using the wrong vessel. Maybe you don't like drawing, maybe you prefer writing, maybe you don't like writing, maybe you prefer drawing. You do need to figure out what your vessel is. I suck at drawing, okay? I'm the worst at drawing, and I don't know if I'm ever gonna be like, you know what, I want to learn it. There's been times where it's like, but it is not, I'm not a particularly visual person. It's not my primary sense. I mean, as humans, it's our primary sense, but the way I feel things are usually not visual. And so you have to figure out what your primary sense is and which art form follows that. Now, I want to preface this. Art can be a hobby and art can be a profession and art could be a side hustle. These kind of apply to different degrees. You have to know what you want it to be for. Be honest through your art. Please don't lie through your art. And you're probably like, what is an art lie? An art lie is exaggerating emotion, undermining an emotion, and flipping through things because you're scared to touch that subject. If you're writing a book and you're scared to touch the subject of jealousy, that's exactly where you need to explore more, because you're so scared of it, because you usually have an emotional reaction to it. And that's the emotion you need to explore. Don't flip through things. I'm going to give a lot of examples through writing, because I write, but this is applicable to any other art form. Are you scared of the trinos in piano and that's why you don't do that? But that should be the thing you focus on, because that's the thing you're bad at, and that's the thing that you don't really have mastered yet, but there's an interest because you're not scared of something you never want to do. I mean, you are, but it's a different reaction. It's a different type of fear. And same with anything else. Whatever you're scared of with art is the thing you need to do more of. Okay, so this is the book I've been using to research this. This video is basically a conversation between me and the book because obviously tons of them are my own ideas and then tons were sparked by this. So we're gonna read a couple quotes to end out this video. The best artists tend to be the ones with the most sensitive antenna to draw in the energy resonating at a particularly moment. Many great artists first develop sensitive antennas, not to create art, but to protect themselves. They have to protect themselves because everything hurts more. They feel everything more deeply. If you're sensitive, art is definitely for you, because most people feel things and they can't name them. Most people have half of a feeling because they can't fully feel it, and there are tons of valid reasons why they can't. They've gotten good at numbing the feeling, they have a vice, there's tons of reasons why, and there's no moral judgment in not being able to feel a feeling at all. But you, if you're sensitive, still have that feeling, and keep that, because that makes the best art in any form. Second quote. Often art arises in moments. Bauhaus architecture, abstract expressions, French New Wave cinema, beat poetry, punk rock, to name a few from recent history. These movements appear like a wave. Some artists are able to read the culture and position themselves to ride it. That's swell. Others might see the wave and choose to swim against the current. Both reacting and seeing and expressing how the culture is great, and criticizing the culture. Both are going with the wave or against the wave makes great art, which is so cool. I think that's why it's so difficult to define art, because it's not with rules. That's what makes it so cool, and that's why I think it's stuck around for so long, and it will stick around forever. The only thing I will say about rebellion is don't be a mindless rebel. That is actually a poem in my upcoming poetry book, so excited to have you see and read that. Third and last quote. As children, we experience much less interference between receiving ideas and internalizing them. We accept new information with delight instead of making comparisons to what we already believe. We live in the moment rather than worrying about the future consequences. We are spontaneous more than analytical. We are curious, not jaded. Even the most ordinary experiences in life are met with a sense of awe. Deep sadness and intense excitement can come within moments of each other. There is no facade, no attachment to a story. There is no facade, no attachment to a story. That is my favorite line out of this book so far. Artists who are able to continually create great works throughout their lives often manage to preserve these childlike qualities. Practicing a way of being that allows you to see the world through uncorrupt, innocent eyes can free you to act in concert with the universe's timeline. So you're like, okay, but I can't go back to being a child. I'm not asking you to. But the childlike quality that children have can be something you can adapt into life. First of all, it's being present. Because what are children if not present in the moment? And it is letting yourself feel the highs without being scared of the lows. The lows will come, the highs will come, but please enjoy them in the present moment, because that makes the best art. It's the, I didn't expect this, and I didn't expect this. In both situations, that makes the best art. And you can't describe something if you weren't even there when you were there. Okay, well, every Saturday I hope I see you here. Subscribe if you are going to take this course from a poet about art with me. You're gonna have homework starting next week, but it's gonna be really fun homework. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Everywhere, all the time. But my sense of smell.